go. First demo video. Hopefully you guys can hear me alright, doing a voiceover here because it's easier than trying to talk while I do all the knife work. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to bone out this chicken. We're going to start from the backbone. If you notice, I'm using the completely wrong tool for the job. That's actually because I wanted to use something I knew most people would actually have. If I had told everybody to pull out their 6-inch semi-flex boning knife, a lot of people wouldn't have had any idea what I was talking about. So I used a simple paring knife, which pretty much every knife block you can get comes with a paring knife in there. It's that little sharp knife that a lot of people probably don't use for anything. But you can see we're just going down the backbone here. It's not important to go fast. What's important here is not to cut any holes in the skin on the other side. And of course, when butchering anything, to not leave any more meat on the bone than is necessary. So we're going through here. Again, just using my fingers on my left hand to carefully pull the meat and the muscles away from the bone. And just the tip of the knife. Pretty much any good butcher will tell you that 80% of butchering is tip work. You're going to use that first 1 to 1.5 inch of your knife more than any other part. So get in there, listen to what the bird's telling you. You know, if it's telling you, if you try to slide your knife and it stops you, listen to the animal. But it's pretty simple. You see here, I'm just showing you where that joint is. You can just go ahead and bend it up. It exposes itself and you just go right through there. And it's nice and easy. Just keep on trimming away, trimming away. Take your time. Again, it's more important to get as much meat off the bone and to make sure that we don't put any additional holes in the skin than it is to go fast. So there you have pretty much one side all done, at least separated from the rib cage. We'll get into boning out the legs and stuff here in a couple minutes, but now we're going to start on the other side. Going to the backbone there. Just right down that backbone again. Make sure you're just using the tip of your knife, getting there, and follow the actual anatomy of the bird. And it'll pretty much tell you where you want to be. Going up there, getting those back collarbone those back collarbones, exposing them, pulling them out of the way. Then we can get back in there and keep cutting down the back. There you go, just separating those muscles there. Separating that joint where that little wing attaches up there by the wishbone. Just slowly drawing the point of the knife. Again, gonna bend that and expose that joint right there. Where that thigh attaches to the actual center bone structure. And now we've pretty much have this holding on with just a couple fibers of muscle and that cartilage that runs across the breastbone. So right now I'm just carefully cutting off any of the excess, letting gravity do the work, lifting up on the actual rib cage and letting the meat fall. There we go, just cutting around again, and we come to our little, where the wishbone is. And we just slowly, again, this is important here. You don't want to stick your knife through that breast and have it come out the other side and poke a hole in the skin. We're going to be stuffing this, so the least holes the better. You don't want stuff leaking out when you're trying to cook it. And now we're just peeling it away, and now I've gotten it to the point where I can pretty much just twist it and pull. And that's pretty much as clean as you can get it. You can see through the rib cage on each side. You can see every exposed bone and joint. Put that aside for chicken stock. That's where we're at now. Any little scraps, chicken stock. We're gonna come in here. We're gonna get those collarbones and that wishbone out into the chicken stock pile. There you go. We'll come in here. Now I'm just cleaning up little bits of the sternum. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to separate this wing right at the flat into your chicken stock pile. We're going to do the same thing here on the other side, right at the flat chicken stock pile. Now you have that little drumette bone in there. See, that's your little drum. And on the inside, you've got the other side of that bone. So you're gonna find the top and you're just carefully gonna trim around the top. This takes practice, so practice. Again, we're doing this video because a lot of people showed interest in it, and no point in time did I consider this a beginner video. It's simply the first one because I wanted to start getting this series done, and people had a lot of questions about the chicken cushions when I posted them on my social media a couple weeks ago. So we've exposed the top of that bone. Now we're going to grab it and we're just going to tap it on the cutting board, and we're going to force that muscle down off the bone. And then anything that wants to cling on, we'll just come back again with the tip of our knife. The knife is so small that I'm using, I can't even get a proper dagger grip or a traditional butcher's grip on it. So kind of using like a cook or a chef's grip, which most people are comfortable with anyway, so that works. You're going to pull it all the way out and cut it at the bottom. Clean bone. And then we're going to go back and we're going to tuck that back in. Onto the other side. We find the little drumette bone. We're going to pop it up. Trim it at the top to release the muscle fibers from the cartilage. Once you've got the muscle fibers released from the cartilage, watch your fingers, of course. Just as simple as that. We're gonna grab it and we're gonna give it a good smack on the board. You see that one came loose nice and easy for us. Wish they were all that easy. Pull it all the way through. Cut it as close to the base as you can. Clean bone. Chicken stock pile. Tuck that back in. All right. So we've got our main skeleton and our drumettes out. We've separated the parts of the wings we're not going to use. This is just me going back, constantly looking, constantly checking, making sure everything's clean in there, trying to see if my hand feels anything that wouldn't be pleasant to bite into later. A good butcher's trick. I use it more on pork and beef. With chicken, I like to keep gloves on as much as possible, regardless of how much I wash my hands. But the palm of your hand is more delicate than the tips of your hand. So if you're ever not sure if you left any fragments on there, take a nice, clean, sanitized palm of your hand and rub that on the inside, and it'll feel anything your fingertips might not have missed. We put our fingertips through a lot in the course of our life. They're pretty tough. Our palm is much more delicate, much more sensitive to any little sharp fragments of bone or cartilage that might be in there. So that's what I'm just looking for now. Cool. Now we're going to bone out these legs. Now again, it's not important to go fast here. What's important is to not poke any additional holes in the other side of that skin. It will give you a lot of trouble later if you do. It's not irreparable. I'll show you how to do a patch later in this video, but you want to skip them as much as you can. And the patch we end up doing is just a natural orifice of the chicken. It's not a hole we created. but the same kind of trick, if you're lucky, can be used if you overreach with your knife. But take your time, be careful. You have a knife close to your fingers anyway, so being careful should kind of be the standard operating procedure, right? Now we're coming in here, we're just going to clean that bone, and we're going to get all the muscle meat off that bone. So that's our thigh bone. That's the one that we were exposing earlier to separate from the actual inner carcass. Now we're going to cut around that cartilage where the thigh bone is going to connect to the drum bone right there, the lower leg bone. And now we're going to come down, we're going to do the same thing that we did on that thigh bone to that lower leg bone. And we're just going to carefully take the first inch and a half of our knife and work it around there. Get all that protein off that bone. Pull it as tight as you can and cut it at the base. That's how it should look. Alright, nice and clean. That means all the meat is still where it's supposed to be, which is in the chicken. The bones will give your chicken stock plenty of flavor. Don't go leaving any meat on there. So now we're just going to flip it over. We're going to do the other side. Simple enough. We find that thigh bone, we cut right on top. We find that drum bone, we cut right on top. We got a little flap of skin there on the back. Get that out of our way, and we finish our cut all the way to the end. Come in there. Boom. Easy. It's easy if you take your time and your knife is nice and sharp. If you try and rush, you're going to have a bad time. If you try and do this with a dull knife, you're going to have a bad time. Sharp knife, take your time, and it's easy. And every time you do it, it'll get easier and faster, easier and faster. I think this whole pretty large chicken took me, 15 minutes? And I was stopping to show things to the camera and turn things around and do all that stuff. So even taking my time and taking breaks to show you guys what I'm doing, 15 minutes for a relatively large chicken. So just goes to show, if you do it enough times, it happens pretty fast. We're just going to go in there. We're going to make sure that we're separating all that meat from the bone. Scrape that bone. Pull it as tight as you can. Cut it at the base. Almost didn't show you that one, but there you go. Alright. So now we've got all the bones out. We're pretty much ready to get into the next stage. Right now I'm just laying it out, doing another cursory check just to make sure I didn't miss any little fragments of cartilage or bone or anything anywhere. Making sure I didn't create any extra holes, seeing how I'm going to layer the meat with the actual skin and the fat. Once you take all the bones out, you'll find there's a lot of extra skin. Right? Flip it over. I'm going to see if I see any visible holes or issues. And there you go. One whole yet completely boneless chicken. Now we're going to stuff it. Now you can pretty much stuff chicken with anything that you want. This is just something this is a nice combination I like to use that we have coming up here. So you're going to get yourself a clean mixing bowl, of course. Into that mixing bowl, first thing I added today was some baby spinach, stems and all. It's good for you. Put it in there. I found some honey roasted pecans. Use your favorite chopped nuts. Just make sure they're chopped up nice and small so they don't go poking a bunch of holes in your chicken. Sliced mushrooms. Some people love mushrooms, some people don't. Like I said, this is one of probably 20 things off the top of my head I could think of one stuffing recipe. So one of my favorite things in the world, sun-dried tomatoes. They're actually really good. Every time I eat them, I wonder why I don't eat them more. But yeah, they're great. Just decided to put all those in there. Some shredded mozzarella. That works best with this particular combination of ingredients, but if you were doing another combination of ingredients, you just want a cheese. Something nice and gooey that's going to bind everything together. And this is some chopped garlic, onion, thyme, rosemary, parsley. Now make sure you reserve a couple teaspoons of this, or tablespoons rather, because you're going to need it later. We're gonna mix that up nice. Make sure everything's all incorporated like so. Thumbs up. And now we're back to our chicken. I haven't touched the chicken yet because I know I'm gonna season some things. So before I touch the chicken, let me get that done. Coarse kosher salt. Pretty much the only salt anybody should own, really, in my opinion. Sea salt's decent, but sometimes it's a little too much salinity. Black pepper, as fresh as you can get it. So if you can crack it yourself like this, please do. And now we're going to go with the stuffing. Now, I can't give you an amount on this because I don't know the size of your bird. Again, you can see I'm using some pretty heaping handfuls. This is a pretty big chicken. Those of you that had seen the ones I had done on my social media, those are much smaller. So it's really about how big the chicken is. Don't worry about overstuffing it. Okay, even after it's completely folded up, which you see me starting to do here, just slowly bringing all the different sections of the chicken to the middle as best I can. Even once you have it all formed up, if it's too stuffed, you'll know. But a lot of times you think it's too stuffed and you just need to take time to shape it. This looks like it's overstuffed, right? It looks like it doesn't want to close. A lot of people would have turned back by now and they would have taken some of that stuffing out. They would have said, oh no, it's too much. All right. But, you're cooking. It's the one time it's okay to play with your food. We've got gloves on. Everything's washed and sanitized. So go ahead and work with it. So this is just me just shaping the stuffing inside the bird. That's a rough form. Now I'm going to tie it up. And as you see, I'm going to speed this up because it takes a lot of ties for a chicken cushion. But as I tie it up, you'll see, and the trick I was talking about, you see that excess skin that we ended up with because we removed all the bones, so it loosened up a bunch of skin. You can pull and stretch that over whatever gap or cavity you might have and then tie it into place like you see me doing. So that's just the basic rear cavity of the chicken. That's not a hole we accidentally created, but we still want to try and tie this up into as tight of a bundle as we can. If you can't get a perfect cushion, it's okay, especially if it's your first couple times. This one's going to look less and less ugly as I work with it. So before, a lot of people would have turned back and thought it was overstuffed and taken some stuffing out. Now it's starting to come together a little bit. See that? Now you could have stopped there, honestly, because it's holding together, which is really all you're trying to do, especially if you're just putting dinner together for the family. You're not really super worried about, restaurant quality presentation. It's being held together. But because I am the way I am, which, especially when it comes to food, I really want things to be as perfect as I can get it. I'm going to take another string and just tie it around this way, just to make sure everything stays in place the way I want it. So we're putting that one on there. We're going to tie those tight. If you guys want me to do a video on proper butcher's knots, let me know. I've actually been studying it up on like 3 or 4 different versions recently, so I'm pretty well versed at this point. So yeah, just throwing some knots on there, tightening it up. Gonna go ahead and cut off the excess there. And you can see I ended up going back. You see that part I tucked under there? I ended up going back and putting another string on there too, because there's no rule that says you can't. Right? I wanted it as perfect as I could get it, and that helped me get there. But for now, we're going to take that reserved garlic mixture. We're just going to rub that all over the top and the sides, but especially all over the top. We really want that olive oil and all the juices from those, all the natural juices from those herbs and that garlic and that onion to run down the chicken as we're cooking it. So it's super important that you spread it nice and evenly as best you can on the top. And if you have some extra, go ahead and put it on the sides too. And you can see this is before I put that last string on there, but pretty much ready for the oven. That's one deboned and stuffed chicken cushion. Now let's check it out. So this was in the oven for 1 hour and 30 minutes at 350 degrees. Took it out. As you can see, nice golden brown. Herbs are nice and crunchy. Flavor, flavor, flavor. The garlic didn't burn. And we're just gonna let that rest. That's kicking it right there. And now we've got a few slices. You can see the inside. And we're good to go. That's one stuffed roasted chicken cushion. Thank you guys. Leave some comments below. Any questions, any suggestions for the next video? Talk to you later.